Our understanding, based on what President Trump at least suggested over the weekend, was that instead of reaching some kind of deal in the near term on Iran's nuclear program, it's going to be a ceasefire extension, punting that issue until later. Would you describe that as a quote-unquote great deal for the United States? Because the president says it's either great deal or no deal.
Yeah, I mean, I think a great deal would be making sure that the nuclear dimension of the deal is up front. And this is the problem with the sequencing. And it's the challenge that Iran has the strategic leverage by having control over the Strait, that the first thing that they focused on is opening the Strait, which I think is basically acknowledging that Iran will control that Strait through a variety of means. So it's not a great deal until we get that nuclear issue resolved. And if you put it to the end, what we've seen, even in the Gaza ceasefire, those tough issues at the end, they stay stuck. And I think that's the concern. The president needs to sell a nuclear arrangement, and the Iranians are not allowing us to put that up front in the sequencing.
You might have thought otherwise reading Truth Social over the weekend. This again was yesterday, much later in the day. The enriched uranium, nuclear dust as he calls it, will either be immediately turned over to the U.S. to be brought home and destroyed, or preferably in conjunction and coordination with the Islamic Republic of Iran, destroyed in place or at another acceptable location. Is this essentially him proposing this, or was that something that was discussed?
Yeah, I mean, again, it seems to me that we just keep sort of inching or leaning towards the Iranian solution.
Yeah.
The Iranian Revolutionary Guard have said that HEU, that highly enriched uranium, will not leave Iran. And of course, the president was insistent it would come here or maybe go to another country. We continue to bend. Okay, well, maybe we can find a way to destroy it within Iran. Again, to do that would have to be incredibly intrusive into Iran. What conditions would allow that?
Even if we unearth these canisters, though, would we actually bring it all the way back to the United States, this incredibly dangerous and volatile set of substances, or would we actually blow it up there?
Right. But to your point, we will find out what state it is in.
Yeah,
And this is, we don't know. We know the tunnels have been closed and crushed. This has been an issue for discussion originally, like way back in the beginning. It was, to go to Russia. That was, said no. Then maybe to the U.S. But you're right. The transit of this highly enriched uranium has to be done extremely carefully, done under the most, transparent and austere conditions, of course.
Well, so obviously the nuclear program is one thing, and these negotiations, at least that we understood to be between the U.S. and Iran, with mediators, of course, the ones facilitating that conversation. But President Trump is also arguing that this is going to go potentially much broader than that, as he seeks an expansion of the Abraham Accords. To quote him directly, he hopes that countries, including referring to Jordan, for example, simultaneously sign on to the Abraham Accords. Mandatory, he suggests that should be. And I just wonder how you think that actually fits into this puzzle here, Heather.
So I think what the president's trying to do is reframe this as really a reorganization of the Middle East, that in part the June 12th, 12-day war last year, this ongoing conflict is reorganizing this, and to create a win out of it, which would be transformational, of having these countries recognize Israel. The challenge is we have to go back to Gaza again. The war, and really that has not resolved itself in helping a Palestinian Authority create itself. Those countries will not be able to go forward in any way, in my view, with the Abraham Accords, unless there is much greater progress in Gaza. You have today, the last 24 hours, the Israelis continuing to bomb Lebanon. Yeah. They've just tried an announcement to evacuate the Bekaa Valley. So we just have, this is the problem. You can't resolve that big transformation until you resolve the Palestinian question and until you get the Iran issue into some containable element within the region.
As long as Benjamin Netanyahu is claiming to be pedal to the metal in Lebanon, can any of these other agreements take place?
It seems absolutely impossible,
Okay.
And particularly because we have Israeli elections coming up in the fall. I think they're going to wait to see if there's some changes potentially there. And I think you saw in this flurry of diplomacy with the president speaking to all of these leaders as we headed into the holiday weekend, the Israelis are very concerned about being part of a deal that really fences them in, that they cannot take action which they believe is defensive, and it just continues to erode the hopeful stability that needs to come to this region desperately.
Well, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu was not very satisfied with the original JCPOA agreement back in 2015. With the way things are tracking, Heather, do you think he's going to find more satisfaction with whatever the outcome is this time?
Well, we don't know what this deal is, so
Sure.
but absolutely. I mean, again, if you start before this conflict, the Strait of Hormuz was open. Now this is a huge bargaining chip for the Iranians. We now have really pedaled back on ballistic missiles, on proxies. We're focusing on the nuclear issue, but as we've discussed, where is that HEU, that highly enriched uranium, going to go? And at this point, with this latest ceasefire violation, I think you're going to continue to see some reprisals, both by the Iranians and the Americans. They're laying more mines.
Yeah.
They're striking against U.S. aircraft. This is not a ceasefire. It's a reduction in violence that can flare at any moment.
So you imagine the conversation that might be had tomorrow at Camp David. The president will be having a cabinet meeting.
Yes.
Apparently it will be Tulsi Gabbard's last. They don't go up there for nothing, of course. In our remaining moment, what type of options might he be presented with?
Yeah, I mean, there aren't really great options here. He can continue to negotiate, and the Iranians are continuing to be very hardline, and we're pushing towards them. Or the president can decide to take a much bolder military option and open the strait, take that leverage away from the Iranians. It's unpalatable, both options, and I don't envy him the task. The intelligence agencies are saying that the Iranian capabilities are not as degraded as the president has said, so I think that is still a point of contention. How much did we really degrade?